Did you know Rick while he was working in law enforcement?
He was a correction officer.
So we're clear he was a correctional officer. I'm deciding to your life up. Rick, bro, I'm gonna your life up. For fun. This a few times. This is not new. I do this all the time.
There they go. Oh man, Ricky's crew. He said he got a $2 million crew in New York City. He was talking about the NYPD.
How do you feel about Bossa giving you the name Officer Ricky? I just want to hear it from you.
Baby, I'm worth too much money to even be, sidetracked on this carpet. No, this is not the G-Unit sneaker. Sorry. Listen, everybody over there at G-Unit, when y'all was out of business.
50 Cent.
50 Cent has built a reputation as one of hip-hop's biggest trolls, taking rap beef to a whole new level over the years. From acting like a debt collector and demanding money from his own artists, to buying out 200 front-row seats at J. Rule's show just to make the venue look empty, he's done it all. But out of all the people who have clashed with the G-Unit general, no one probably regrets it more than Rick Ross. Their feud kicked off after a brief run-in at the 2008 BET Awards. According to Ross, he didn't like the way 50 Cent looked at him that night. But 50...
You're really embarrassing him because this guy came out and it was, I guess he started something. Yeah. So what you do is you come on and you go, I'm going to f*** up your life, and, which is really got to be unpleasant to hear.
50 Cent later claimed he didn't even remember Rick Ross being there. What started as a petty misunderstanding quickly spiraled into one of hip-hop's longest and most brutal rap beefs. And as the world watched, 50 Cent went on a mission to systematically tear down Rick Ross's career. By 2011, 50 Cent was reflecting on how the beef started, and to him, it was clear. Ross wanted the smoke for publicity. He says it all started because I looked at him the wrong way, 50 Cent said in an interview. That means he just wanted to compete. He wanted to move up. He wanted to create awareness for himself, and he did it. Whether Ross was clout, chasing, or genuinely had a problem with 50 Cent, their brief encounter at the 2008 BET Awards set things in motion. Ross wasted no time. He went straight to the studio and fired the first shot with his track Mafia Music. The song had plenty of slick talk, but one line stood out. Burn the house down, you gotta buy another, don't forget the gas can. At first glance, it might
House down, you gotta buy another, don't forget the gas can.
Sound like a typical rap flex. But that line had a much deeper meaning. Ross was taking a direct shot at 50 Cent's baby mama, Shaniqua Tompkins, and the house fire that nearly took her and their son's life. At the time, 50 Cent and Shaniqua were locked in a bitter custody battle over their son, Marquise, as well as the house that mysteriously went up in flames. The fire was no joke. 6 people were inside when it broke out, and the entire place was completely destroyed. Shaniqua publicly accused 50 Cent of being behind it, saying, "He's obsessed. He's very obsessed. We're in litigation. We're fighting over the house."
Someone threw something through the window and the house just ignited. Couldn't even make it downstairs. We had to jump out the window.
Do you think he hired someone to do it?
Yes, of course. I know he's too much of a coward to do anything himself.
But
He said he was going to have someone come get me. She even claimed she heard intruders right before the fire started. But 50 Cent's reps were quick to shut down any suspicions, confirming that he was in Louisiana at the time of the incident. Regardless of what really happened, Rick Ross knew exactly what he was doing when he referenced the fire in his diss track. He had ammunition, and he was using it. Ross was feeling himself. In an interview about the track, he made it clear that he wasn't holding back. "I had to address a few things. I had to address a few people," Ross said. "Some people are going to be fucked, and that's the best way I can put it." At the time, Ross had every reason to be confident. His first 2 albums had already gone platinum thanks to hits like Hustlin' and The Boss, and the industry had embraced him as a rising star. But Ross underestimated who he was going up against. Cent wasn't just any rapper, he was a seasoned, battle-hardened troll who specialized in career destruction. Ross wasn't the first to step into the ring with him. Just ask Ja Rule, Fat Joe, The Game, or any of the others who had clashed with 50 Cent. None of them came out the same, and 50 Cent made it clear. He was going to wreck Ross's career, just for fun. From the outside looking in, everyone could see the writing on the wall. If 50 Cent got his hands on some dirt, it was over. And unfortunately for Ross, he had a skeleton in his closet that was about to be exposed. So where exactly did this whole Rick Ross was a cop narrative come from? To break it down, we have to rewind back to 2006, when a bombshell article titled "Screw Rick Ross" started making rounds on the Smoking Gun website. The article dropped a major claim.
I'm deciding to your life up. Rick Ross, I'm gonna your life up. For fun. There's a few times. This is not new.
Rick Ross, whose real name is William Leonard Roberts II, was actually a correctional officer before he ever picked up a mic. Wait. Of the most damning pieces of evidence? A picture of a young Rick Ross dressed in a full correctional officer uniform, proudly shaking hands as he graduated from the academy. The report went even further, stating that Ross worked as a CO at the South Florida Reception Center in Dade County. For a rapper who had built his entire brand around being the biggest boss, a drug kingpin, and a certified street legend, this revelation was a PR disaster. And Ross knew it too. At first, he outright denied everything. He went into full damage control mode, coming up with all kinds of explanations. One of the most bizarre, that hackers had photoshopped his face onto someone else's body. And that wasn't even the only problem. While people were still debating whether or not Rick Ross had worked as a CO, another issue started haunting him, one that 50 Cent would make sure the world never forgot. It's not uncommon for rappers to take inspiration from real-life gangsters when coming up with their stage names. We've seen it with Nipsey Hussle, Yo Gotti, Bugsy Malone, and even Machine Gun Kelly. But Rick Ross, he made a critical mistake. He didn't just borrow a name, he took it straight from a real, still-living ex-drug kingpin, Freeway Ricky Ross. And the real Rick Ross was not happy about it. But things got even worse for Ross. If there's one thing you don't want to do in hip-hop, it's getting into a beef with 50 Cent while having skeletons in your closet. Because 50 Cent, he's like a shark that smells blood in the water. The moment Ross took that first shot...
Rick Ross used my whole name, you know, and he probably gained the most stardom out of everybody. You know, he raps about selling drugs,
Right.
and he never sold drugs. You know, he was a correctional officer.
...at him with mafia music, he unknowingly opened the floodgates for a world of pain. Cent didn't waste a second. He came straight at Ross with "Officer Ricky, go ahead, try me," a diss track exposing Ross for pretending to be a gangster when, in reality, he had been a correctional officer. But 50 Cent didn't stop at just one diss. He took things to a whole new level. He didn't just clown Ross in songs, he went all out. He created an entire animated series called Officer Ricky, where he relentlessly mocked Ross's past as a CO. The goal? To make sure that every time people heard the name Rick Ross, they pictured a badge, a uniform, and a prison guard. And the worst part? It worked. No matter how much Ross tried to laugh it off, the Officer Ricky nickname stuck. But with 50 Cent, it's never just about the main target. He always drags everyone around them into the fight. And this time, that included Tia Kemp, the mother of Rick Ross's firstborn son. Cent linked up with Tia for a full tell-all video where she completely aired out Ross's dirty laundry. She claimed his entire persona was fake, his tough guy image, his so-called kingpin lifestyle, none of it was real. And if that wasn't enough, she even exposed details about his other baby mamas, adding more fuel to the fire. And Cent, being the master troll he is, saw an even bigger opportunity. He announced that he would be publishing a tell-all book by Tia, revealing all the details of her time with Ross. Now, luckily for Ross, that book never actually came out. But by then, the damage was already done. However, 50 Cent's strategy of bringing Ross's baby mamas into the mix eventually backfired. While Tia Kemp was down to expose Ross, another one of his baby mothers, Lastonia Leviston, ended up turning the tables on 50 Cent. At the height of their beef, an explicit tape of Lastonia leaked online, and guess who was providing commentary on it? 50 Cent, in his infamous Pimpin' Curly persona. Lastonia didn't take it lightly. She sued 50 Cent, claiming he had illegally posted the tape.
If you listen to his raps, you would definitely believe him, but I mean, it was surprising that he would sit there and say he spends $200 a month on food. His jewelry is rented.
Because I go with these other niggas and go $2 million worth of jewels on.
You know, possibly not real.
The lawsuit dragged on for years, but when it was finally settled, it had serious consequences for 50 Cent. But even with a lawsuit looming over his head, 50 Cent didn't let up. He kept his foot on Ross's neck, taking shots whenever he could, keeping the Officer Ricky jokes alive, and reminding everyone that Ross was a fraud. Ross, on the other hand, tried to play it cool. He would occasionally drop a diss track or send a subliminal shot 50 Cent's way. But at this point, it was clear 50 Cent was playing chess while Ross was playing checkers. And then 50 Cent took things to another level of disrespect. He posed for pictures with Rick Ross's son while hanging out in Las Vegas with Tia Kemp and Floyd Mayweather. That was a low blow, even for 50 Cent. Many people felt like he had taken things too far, but he never backed down. Every time he was asked about it in interviews, his response remained the same. Rick Ross is a fraud. At this point, Officer Ricky wasn't just a diss in rap circles. It had gone mainstream. 50 Cent may not have been the first to dig up Ross's law enforcement past, but he was the one who made sure the whole world knew about it. And beyond just exposing Ross, the real victory for 50 Cent was that he forced Ross to finally admit the truth. Because without that constant pressure, Ross probably never would have. For years, Ross dodged questions about his past, even when the proof was right in front of him. He denied it, tried to change the subject, and spun the story in every way possible. But in 2014, something unexpected happened. On his track Rich's Gangsta from the album Mastermind, Ross finally rapped, "That wasn't me, it was a job." For the first time in his career, Ross admitted what 50 Cent had spent over 5 years trying to expose. And after that, in interviews, he eventually come clean about the whole thing. At the end of the day, 50 Cent had done exactly what he set out to do. He forced Rick Ross to admit the truth. But did it actually ruin Rick Ross's career, like 50 Cent had planned? That's the real question. Because let's be real, in hip-hop, being a cop, or even being associated with law enforcement, is considered one of the worst things a rapper can be. It's the one thing that completely kills street credibility. And yet, despite everything 50 Cent did, despite the memes, the jokes, and the exposés, Rick Ross's career didn't crumble. Sure, the Officer Ricky label stuck, but Ross kept dropping hits, kept selling records, and somehow, fans still rocked with him. He didn't let the beef define his career, and in some ways, he even embraced it. So, while 50 Cent won the battle of exposing Rick Ross, Ross might have won the war. Because at the end of the day, his career didn't just survive, it thrived. The rap game has seen some of the most brutal beefs over the years, but few have been as explosive as the one between 50 Cent and Rick Ross. When 50 Cent exposed Ross's past as a correctional officer, many thought it would be the end of his career. The revelation was embarrassing, no doubt. It made him the punchline of countless jokes, and every time he rapped about being a boss or moving weight, there was always a cloud of doubt hanging over him.
Ross and Big Meech do an Instagram video together because Big Meech is doing this big concert. And so then 50 gets upset about that. Did 50 post anything, or did he just kind of unfollow Lil Meech?
Well, he posted a rap.
Now, but despite all that, Ross didn't let it break him, even with his credibility taking. A hit, Ross pushed forward. He kept dropping music, held onto a loyal fan base, and to some listeners, his past didn't matter as long as the music was good. However, things were never quite the same. Before the scandal, Ross was dominating the charts with platinum records and hit singles. But after he admitted the truth on Mastermind, something changed. His next album, Hood Billionaire, had the lowest first-week sales of his career at that time. And from that point on, he never hit #1 on the Billboard charts again. For 50 Cent, this was a win. He had successfully exposed his rival, but even he had to face some setbacks. The biggest blow came in 2015 when a court ordered him to pay $5 million to Lastonia Leviston, one of Ross's baby mothers, for leaking her intimate tape. That lawsuit hit 50 Cent so hard that he had to file for bankruptcy, something the internet never let him live down. He tried to shift the blame onto Ross, claiming it was actually him who leaked the tape, but in the end, the lawsuit stuck, and 50 Cent had to take the loss. While Ross took his fair share of damage, he did manage to regain some control over the narrative. Instead of avoiding the topic, he started speaking openly about his past as a correctional officer. He tried to spin it, making it seem like he had some deeper reason for taking the job. But no matter how much he tried to move past it, the truth is that the beef with 50 Cent left a permanent mark on his career. Even now, Ross can't fully escape the shadow of that scandal. Anytime his name comes up, so does the Officer Ricky saga. And just when it seemed like the long-standing feud between 50 Cent and Rick Ross was finally cooling down, they found a new reason to reignite the flames, this time over Big Meech. First, those who don't know, Demetrius Big Meech Flannery is a legendary figure in hip-hop's connection to the drug game. As the co-founder of the Black Mafia family, BMF, his massive drug empire and money laundering operation left a lasting impact on hip-hop culture. After spending years behind bars, Meech was recently moved to a halfway house, and naturally, some of the biggest names in the industry showed up to visit him, including 50 Cent. But when Meech was later seen linking up with Rick Ross, things took an unexpected turn. To understand why this caused tension, you have to remember that 50 Cent has a direct connection to BMF. He's the executive producer behind the hit Starz series BMF, which is loosely based on the real-life story of Big Meech and his brother, Terry Southwest T. Flannery. The show even stars Meech's real-life son, Demetrius Flannery Jr., playing his father. So, in 50 Cent's mind, seeing Meech hanging out with his biggest rap enemy probably felt like a betrayal. And if there's one thing about 50 Cent, it's that he doesn't let things slide. It didn't take long before 50 Cent took to Instagram to air out his frustration. He posted and quickly deleted a picture of a rat along with some not-so-subtle references to Rick Ross's 2010 track BMF, Blowin' Money Fast. Ross, never one to back down, responded with a
budget film.
Yeah. So look, I do want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small budget series. Now it's time to do a big budget film.
Video where he mocked 50 Cent's BMF series, calling it small budget and unimpressive. But he didn't stop there. He took it a step further, boldly claiming that he was planning to produce his own BMF movie, saying, "I want to do a BMF film because you've been entertained by a lackluster, small-budget series. Now it's time to do a big-budget film." At this point, it's clear that 50 Cent and Rick Ross will never see eye to eye. Their beef has lasted over a decade, and neither of them is willing to let it go. But if there's one lesson to be learned from all of this, it's that if you're going to go head-to-head with 50 Cent, you better not have any skeletons in your closet. Because if you do, he will find them. And once he does, that's all people will ever remember about you.